Hi everyone, welcome back to Algebra 3. Today we're going to be working on 5.2, day 2. That's Introduction to Functions, day 2. So we're going to be doing these 4 things. But to determine if a graph is a function, the first thing that we need to do is we need to look at something called the vertical line test. So the vertical line test can be used to determine whether a graph represents a function. So if we can draw a vertical line that intersects a graph more than once, then the graph does not define a function. So here, this graph is a function because if you were to draw this vertical line through any point in this graph, it would only hit the graph one time. The second one is not a function because if we draw a vertical line through this graph, it would hit the graph once and then twice. So that's what makes it not a function. The last one is also not a function because the vertical line hits that graph more than one time. But again, this first one is a function because a vertical line would hit that graph one time. So let's see some of the questions you'll have today. You'll have first to determine if a graph is a function. So I want to determine if this graph represents a function. So I'm going to use the vertical line test. I'm going to draw a vertical line and see if that would hit the graph more than once. This vertical line hits the graph once, twice, so I'm going to select not a function. Nice. Okay. See, vertical line hits it more than one time. All right, next one. Here, if I were to draw a vertical line, I would see that it would hit the graph twice. So I'm going to choose not a function again. Check my answer. Yes. All right. Then the other things you'll have to do, you have to evaluate functions from a graph. So it says find the value f of 8. So I do want to remind you, we've got this equation. Oh, I need to make sure if I can find my pen here. Okay. Y equals f of x. So that is the formula that's going to generate all our x comma y points. So if I'm finding f of 8, what they're saying is when the x part, because that's where the x is, when the x part is 8, what is the y? So I'm going to go on my x-axis, I'm going to find where x is 8, and then I'm going to go to the graph and see what point that corresponds to. That looks like it corresponds to the point 8, 5. So the y part would be 5. So that means that f of 8 is equal to 5. So I'll type in 5. Answer. There we go. Try another one. F of 2. So that means this time my x is 2. Change colors here. All right, so this time the x is 2. So what is the y? So I'll go to when x is 2, and I'll go to the graph. Find the point that corresponds to that. I have to look really carefully, but it looks like it hits right here at the point 2, comma negative 8. So the y would be the negative 8, so f of 2 looks like it would be negative 8. So I'll enter in negative 8, check to see if that's right. And it is. The other thing we'll have to do, find roots from a graph. So same kind of deal with this y equals f of x equation, but this time I'm looking for roots, and roots are the solution of this equation right here, f of x equals 0. So what this is saying, remember that's the y, it's saying what are the x's whenever the y's are 0. So roots, this is a general definition for x. What are the x when y equals 0? So to do that, I'll go to the y-axis. I'm going to find 0 on the y, which is right here. Then I go left and right to find out where the graph hits that. So it looks like the graph hits right here at 2, 0, and then again at negative 6, 0. So I'm looking where is my graph have a y value of 0. So it looks like negative 6. I'm positive 2. So I can say that f of negative 6 equals 0 and f of 2 equals 0. So then when I go to format my answer, I'm going to type in negative 6 and 2. And these braces pop up. That means that at negative 6 and 2, not everywhere in between. Let's try another one like that. Same deal. I'm looking for the x's where y is 0. So again, I go to the y-axis. I find 0 on the y-axis. 0 is actually the x-axis. So I'm going to find all the points where the graph hits the x-axis. Right here, right here, right here, and right there. And then I just list those points. Looks like it's going to be negative 6, negative 3, 0, and 4. And let's see, the last thing you'll have to do is you have to evaluate functions, level 2, find f of negative 2. The only thing you have to watch out for on these is you want to be careful because you're substituting in negatives. So whenever I'm evaluating functions, I rewrite it, and instead of parentheses, or sorry, instead of an x, I write the parentheses. So I copy every single thing down, but instead of an x, I put parentheses. That will help me from making mistakes. And then inside the parentheses, I'm going to substitute a negative 2. And then I'll evaluate. Just make sure that you follow the order of operations. So order of operations, so you do parentheses first, but there's nothing else to do with negative 2. So now let's look at exponents. Negative 2 squared means negative 2 times negative 2, which is 4. So negative times positive 4 plus 3. So negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. So just be careful whenever you're working on those.